We got a treat for you today. Usually, when I put up stuff with James, it's us hanging out doing stuff. But this is our first time virtually hanging out on this channel, so it's pretty interesting. Basically, James hits me up a few weeks ago. He's like, dude, I got this meditation product. It's going to be amazing. It's going to help guys fucking get rid of their fucking panicking and put them in the body and get them to talk to the ladies in a much better fashion. And I was like, that's nice. And he's like, I want to come on your channel and tell everyone about it. And I was like, buddy, listen, you can't just come on fucking Sasha Day Game channel and fucking whore your shit, bro. What do you think this is? And he said, you don't understand. I'll come on, we'll do an interview, we'll give some love, it'll be fascinating, people will learn stuff, then I'm gonna whore my shit. And I was like, yeah, I guess that's all right. So, but it's actually a great interview, it's a lot of fun. So check it out, become a little bit more enlightened, a little bit more in touch with what's going on the inside. Maybe do a couple of these little breathing techniques and presence techniques that he mentions in this little video here. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you won't. Usually a blast, me and James hanging out. So here it is. Have fun. And see you later. Boom shakalaka. Look at this.
Shakalaka boom.
Look at this. Look who it is.
Look at who is
this?
It's
the James Marshall.
Yeah.
Look at you. You just look like a silly rock star who's sort of French and used to be a painter, but also has had lots of sex and is a bit happy now from too much sex.
That's all right. I have made it, and I am all washed up, and I feel pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yes, thank you. That's the good description that I was hoping for. Yeah, and meanwhile you look like some kind of ex-biker who found Hare Krishna and is now like become a spiritual dude who used to have a few fucking scraps back in the day. But now he's all right.
That's right. I've calmed down in my ways. It's all about the bracelet. Look at that. It's all about the big necklace, mate, and the white shirt.
Big
That's
beads.
what does it. We're like opposites now. I'm all like white with the beat, and you're literally just leather jacket, fucking black t-shirt.
Yeah.
Someone's about to get their legs broken in an alley if they cross you. With me, I'm just going to forgive them, James. I'm just going to forgive them, and tell them I love them, and move on.
That's for Jesus to do.
And bless them.
Yeah, and you're in my house right now. You're in my room, right?
That's right. This is the amazing thing. I'm in your fucking house. This is your room right here.
A lot of bad things happen there.
I know. There's always this energy that someone's ejaculating right behind me when I'm working on my computer. I'm always like, did someone just? It's like
the screams of virgin high school girls echoing.
The ghost of ejaculation past. But let me start off with a question.
Yeah.
I'm shortly. I think people know it's coming. People know the Sasha show is moving off to another separate channel where we're going to be doing our own thing, and you are our very last, very VIP guest on the show. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I feel like that's fitting. I feel good, and I feel like that's the way it should be. Cool. I didn't know any of that was happening, so that's news to me. But all right, good. I'm the last of a long line of.
You didn't have to do the Hitler salute.
That wasn't
there, mate.
no. My
That's
hand. If you'd seen my hand, it would have been doing some odd thing. It wasn't doing that. It was doing a bit of this.
Something else. All right, just making sure. Yeah. So James, so you have been, as usual, I know the lifestyle, all over the world. You're teaching, you're whoring, you're having a great time with the lady. Everything's going wonderful.
Yeah.
But here's a question for you.
Suspiciously
And this
good.
is what's. So see, yeah.
Sometimes I'm
well,
things are a little too good in my life right now. What's going to happen next? Yes, go on.
Well, it's funny. Well, it's funny how far you've come from when we met. You're grumpy old cunt, and now you're a lot more happy and relaxed. El relaxo.
Yes.
But it's a fascinating story. I was reading. Well, I knew the story anyway because I fucking know you. But I was reading your book there, and it's just so funny when you think about both of our backgrounds. You know, like I went from stand-up comedian to dating guru, and you went from essentially freaking monk, basically like kung fu meditating Shaolin monk, to crazy sex party animal trampling around the world. So my inside joke with everybody else, I don't think people know it, is we call you party monk, right?
Party monk.
You're a party monk, because James likes to go and he's having a good time. There's women, there's booze, might be a little marijuana. I'm not saying for sure, but there might be a little marijuana. And James, he's party monk. That's what he is. Yeah. And I guess the question is, and this is something I'm really interested about, and I really want to know the answer. Because for like me right now, I'm really like I've been through the whole PUA thing. It's been a great time. I'm still sort of in it. I'm still teaching it, but just stepping away to a degree from the life stuff because I have other stuff I want to do. But being through that whole journey right now, I'm really on the more on the spiritual path, really just focusing on myself, working on the divine connection, and just really going through that. And it's a beautiful thing. So I'm just curious, because you were heavily into personal development, obsessively so, when you were younger. I mean, that's literally, you told me that was it. You didn't give a shit about anything else. You had your girlfriend, you had your spiritual practice down, you were doing your hardcore meditation, hard kung fu, no drinking, no smoking, no eating. I don't think you were even eating meat at one point. You were hardcore. Right, and at some point, and obviously you were doing that for a reason. I'm assuming it's because you wanted to reach spiritual enlightenment, and then you literally went off the deep end, and you're like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna sleep with millions of women, and it's gonna be amazing." So I want to know at what point, what happened where you decided, you know what, you're gonna start enjoying the more human aspects of our existence. What was the breaking point? What was your motivation, first of all, to go down the spiritual path so young? And what was the breaking point that got you on this crazy fucking, dating coach, crazy sex feast craziness?
Good question. All right, I'll try to squash down an insane life into a very short amount of time. Anyone who wants to know the full story, you can read my book, A Natural History, which is not available anywhere right now, but will be again soon. But in short, when I was 18, I finished high school. I decided not to go to university. I worked on an orange farm out in the desert in Australia for months, saved up some few $1,000, and then bought a ticket to Southeast Asia and went off. And I growing up in my teenage years, was very nihilistic, was very negative, grew up in a pretty negative household with a crazy mum, like you, no daddy around, and was an overthinker, was someone who didn't fit in, didn't feel like I was part of the Aussie culture, thought that I was a bit too smart and a bit too sensitive and deep for the world. Read lots of nihilistic literature and smoked lots of weed, listening to the Doors, and was just a negative cunt. And was very unsatisfied with that. And at the same time, I'd also been interested in Eastern philosophy and martial arts since I could remember. Like, I bought a book on ninjas when I was 10, and I was like, ninjutsu, and wanted to learn all about ninjas, and then found out about kind of Buddhism and Taoism, and had been reading stuff about this and was really curious. And I'd also read a lot of the Beat Generation, like Jack Kerouac. These were like the early hippies who'd gone off to first get in contact with Eastern spirituality. So I was really into all those ideas. So what I decided to do was go on my own quest at the age of 18, just having finished high school, and go to the East and try and find some gurus and learn some kind of technology, internal technology, that was going to stop me thinking so much, feeling so negative, and being like suicidal at points. So it was really like a kind of an emergency desperation thing early on. And so I found myself in India at age just turned 19, and I went and checked into my first ever 10-day Vipassana course. So that's a hardcore meditation retreat, which I highly recommend I think it's very useful to a lot of people. Very difficult, but really awesome. And so I did my first 10-day sit there, and through that first initial retreat, really came in contact with my deep anger, and came in contact with like the sorrow of like my childhood and my parents, and had a lot of really heavy catharsis. Like, I was in this jungle in India, like in between breaks in the sitting, just going out and screaming and crying and raging and all this stuff boiling out of me. And coming out of that first retreat, I had a really palpable sense of, okay, I am actually responsible for the way that I process my experiences. So prior to that, I had a victim mentality. I felt like, okay, because of my upbringing, because of my parentage, because of my economic situation, because I was an outcast, like the world was out to get me, and I was fighting against it, and it was not my fault, and I hated things. I was projecting. And so the biggest thing I took from that first retreat was, I'm actually responsible for how I respond to what happens to me. And that then set me on, and a lot of other catharsis, and felt much better and lighter, and my head was clearer and de-stressed. And so instantly after that, I came out of the retreat, got involved with these mafioso, jewel smuggling Indian capos who like took me for a wild ride, kidnapped me without my knowledge, called my father and said, "Sir, we are going to execute your son if you do not send $50,000 US, and then went off on some other random adventures. When I came back to Australia, I then seriously got into spirituality, and I got particularly into Shaolin Kung Fu. So I found a really amazing teacher, amazingly, in the shitty town I was in Australia, who'd studied in China for many years. And I started learning this esoteric form of martial arts. and I became obsessed with it. So I quit everything. Like I quit drugs, I quit meat, alcohol, coffee, everything. And for the next 4 or 5 years, lived a really Spartan, pure existence. So all I did was I worked a couple of shitty cafe jobs to pay the rent, and then I had a girlfriend that I lived with, and then I literally got up at 5, meditated, stretched, did kung fu, did my whatever job I had to do, then went to kung fu class, then meditated in the evening. Like I was essentially living like a monk in Canberra in Australia, and I continued that. And then I got into studying Chinese medicine, so I became all about everything Eastern. So then I wanted to learn Eastern healing, so I went and did this in-depth massage and Eastern medicine course for a couple of years. At the end of that course, we had the opportunity to go to China to study in a hospital there for a couple of months. So I went and did that, and then I went to Shaolin Temple, which was my kind of mecca, my dream place. And I initially just went there as like a tourist, because you couldn't just rock up to the temple and say, hey, teach me. There was a very strict protocol. You needed your master to recommend you, and they'd have a special testing thing where they'd, do Zen stuff with you and test you. And I hadn't done that. I just rocked up to the temple as a tourist just to check it. And then through these amazing series of kind of coincidences or fate, I found my way to my master's master. And so I suddenly found myself in front of this huge bearded monk who had this monk spade, which is this big stick with blades on the end of it. And he chatted to me, and I told him in my broken Chinese, I explained who my teacher was. He knew him obviously because he was his master. And he said, what do you want? And I said, can I study with you? And he said, tomorrow morning, 5 a.m. So I quickly went and called my master in Australia, said, so look, I'm in Shaolin Temple, and I know I'm not supposed to be here, but I'm here. I met your master, De Chao. Can I hang out here? And he said, all right, James, don't fuck this up. He literally said that. Monks shouldn't say that, but he did. You got one shot. And so then I found myself the next day living in this like kung fu movie fantasy where I was up in the mountains of China above Shaolin Temple, learning all this esoteric kung fu and swinging weapons around and doing hardcore meditation and sitting in horse stance for hours and all that crazy shit. And then this continued on for years. So what I got out of that period was a lot of things. Like I got a really clear sense of the way my mind, emotions, and body interacted. I learned how to chill the fuck out. I learned how to get out of my head into my body, into the present moment. I had a lot more grace in my movements. I felt much more physically confident because I was learning all these powerful movements. And I was literally gunning for enlightenment. Like my goal as a 21-year-old was to become an enlightened Buddha. Like I was so extreme about it. So I got a lot of really good stuff out of it, but at the same time, I was also very rigid. Like I had a job as a security guard for a bar, and I would literally stand outside the bar and just meditate through my shift, and I would let in 14-year-old girls. Like I forgot to check their ID, and occasionally they'd be like, James, you got one job here is to like check if they're children or not. I'm like, oh yes, right, sorry, I was just meditating. Like the way I was in the world is I was really rigid. I was humorless. I didn't want to talk to anybody except if they were very spiritual people. Like I felt like all worldly things were kind of distractions or a waste of time, and that any minute that wasn't meditating was not really a useful minute. And that was I think that was good for me at that time as a young man when I was really needed something extreme to shift my direction. But then, it came to a point where I recognized, okay, I'm not really enjoying life. I'm really trying to remove myself from life. And the fact is, I wasn't born as a monk in China. I was born as a Western man, like with desires and opportunities and all this stuff. So I started to look at, okay, what else is out there? How do I integrate this into my life? And I didn't integrate it at all. I swung heavily in the opposite direction. So I broke up with that girlfriend. I started playing music, joined a band, started realizing you could get laid because of that. But not with very hot girls. When you've got a shitty band, you get not very hot groupies. I noticed that, but I was still getting some action. Just wasn't great action. And then for the next 10 years, literally, I became a wandering funk musician, as well as doing massage and Eastern therapies, if you know what I mean. Have you read that bit yet? Read that bit of the book yet? Yeah. And got like heavily into, well, not heavily into, just moderately into psychedelic drug use and chasing chicks. And then I went back to China like a couple of times during this period. So I was swinging hard, like from like party monk to real monk, and kind of struggling a lot with this identity, but at the same time seeing that both worlds were giving me something. I was getting a lot of confidence because I started then approaching girls when I was about 26, and started getting a lot of confidence, and also for seeing that, okay, this activity is an amazing test of my spiritual abilities. So like the fact that I was going out and approaching girls and having my ego hit and dented, and seeing the real-time effects of my presence when I was in my head or out of my head, I started to see, this meditation shit is highly transferable to all sorts of things in life, and especially this thing of picking up girls. Because when I first started doing cold approach, within a year I was really good. Like I went from never having cold approach to girls. I had girlfriends before. I'd had social circle lays, basically. I wasn't inexperienced, but I'd never run around the streets chasing chicks. When I started doing that, because I had practiced so much presence and being responsive and like just going with the flow and being relaxed in my body, the girls responded really well to me, even if I choked and didn't know what to say, didn't know how to escalate so well, or all of the nuts and bolts of seduction. I figured that out. But my presence was something I'm like, okay, I'm having an impact on girls. And so my seduction lifted really fast. And then I started teaching 2 years later. And very quickly it became apparent that when I first was teaching guys, we were just taking them out, throwing them into sets, demonstrating, partying with them, and you're getting some results. But pretty soon I recognized, there's some deep issues here that men have that are coming up over and over again. With the initial clients, I'm like, this guy's fucked up. This guy's fucked up. Hang on, every guy's fucked up in all these strange internal ways, with all these fears and neuroses and worthiness issues and paranoias and anxieties and daddy issues, and all this shit's rolling under the surface of men that's not being expressed because you can't show that. So, but when they come to us, as you and I well know, that's when people who've led their entire lives looking stony-faced and strong suddenly burst into tears and just show you what they've been hiding. So I recognize, I need way more than just to give these guys like external skills. I need to help them to go through the same process I had and was continuing to go through, to look at, okay, what are my reactions, what are my emotions, what are the ways that my beliefs and my fears are holding me back, and how do we process those? And that's when I started integrating the meditation that I'd learned on all these retreats. I'd done 5, 6, 10-day retreats by then, and hundreds of hours of meditation. Started to boil that down to give it to guys so that in field, like in real time, I could give them small pieces of meditation that would allow them to shift through their anxieties and their fears. And then the rest is history. Since then I've been trucking around the world, and I feel like I've found more or less a balance of the party monk and the real monk. I often still swing one way or another, but yeah, learning that meditation is an art for living, not just an art for living in a cave. So yeah.
Now, here's the juicy question that I have that just came to me now. So I remember, obviously, if you were to ask me, if anyone was to ask me, hey, what's the number one problem men have when it comes to, getting women into their lives? I'd probably say one or two things. Recently, I've realized it's fundamentally guys don't really love themselves. They don't really believe in themselves, and that's really what it is. But probably up till a few months ago, I would have said fear of rejection, right? But it's the same thing, right? That's why you're afraid of rejection, because you can't take it, because if you really had that self-love and you're like, I'm fucking awesome, some girl could tell you to go fuck yourself, you'd be like, whatever, you wouldn't give a shit. So it really comes down to the same thing. And what's fascinating is I found my own solution for it, which I'd been using for years, and then, which pretty much everyone knows is, social freedom, pushing people's boundaries, getting them judged by people on purpose so that they realize it doesn't fucking matter, and they break through, and they just stop giving a shit, basically. So that's the way I've been doing it for a very long time. But interestingly, when I came in contact with you, something fascinating happened, and I was teaching some courses with you, and I saw your way of dealing with it. And I've had some tough clients over the years where I without even knowing it was meditation, I did what I saw you do to them. Probably only a handful of times, but I took it because when guys were really freaking out, I take them to the side and I basically did what you would do. Just basic breathing, listening to sounds on the outside, listening to their heartbeat stuff on the inside. And I would just do with them for a few minutes, basically do exactly the way I saw you do it. And they came out of it, and I'd be like, "How do you feel?" And they'd be like, "Feel a lot better." I'd be like, "Great. How about you go say hi to that pretty girl right now?" And they'd be like, "Okay." And I was like, "Wow, this really works. This is great." And it was so fascinating because it's just a completely different way of dealing with it. It's an absolutely different way. And so my question is, getting guys into the moment and present into the moment and being able to connect with yourself as a tool to be able to go and you know, have these interactions with women, is that dealing with, to some degree, and if so, how is it dealing with the real internal issues, the real pain, the doubt, all that stuff? Is it just temporarily putting them in the moment where they're just like, fuck it, you know what, I feel my body, it's okay, it's not so bad, and they do it, or over the long term, is it somehow actually helping them resolve this really fucked up shit that's holding them back and all this kind of doubt? That's my question when it comes to meditation.
Awesome question. And you're totally right in terms of like the biggest issue that men have. It's not really about like what exactly do I say, and the concept of approach anxiety. Yeah, that is the problem. But what does that cause from? And it's caused from most men's greatest fear, which is to be revealed. Like it's to be seen, because the big fear is that if they go up to the girl and they reveal themselves, which you have to if you want to be a good ladies' man, and they reveal themselves, the girl looks at him and looks through him and goes, nah, he's a useless piece of shit. You know, like that she has, within 30 seconds, she can judge you as a human being and go, nah, not worthy of getting anywhere near me or any other woman for that matter, so go and die. That's the kind of the core fear that men have. And because, like, the thing is, we can teach, it's not that hard to teach guys how to stop girls and how to talk to them and, you know, how to flirt a bit and how to ask for numbers. Like that nuts and bolts of seduction stuff is not rocket science. It's a bunch of things you need to learn. You learn about the timing, you learn about what makes good conversation, how to touch a girl. That's reasonably simple, but it's the thing that holds the guys back is not that. It's having the self-love, having the understanding that they're okay, that they are worthy, that they actually are of worth, that they have their own value, and that a woman would be interested in that. So in answer to your question, how does meditation help with that? And yes, you're right, like on one level, when I take a guy out in field and, okay, he goes, approaches a girl and a nasty Russian girl says, I'm busy, get out of my way. And he feels all weird and he comes out and he's like all frazzled and I'm like, are you okay? He's like, yep, fine. I'm like, no, you're not. All right, close your eyes. And then I take them through, say, a 5-minute short meditation just right there on the street. And on one level, what that does is it takes them out of a reactive moment, right? Because humans like being in homeostasis. We like being warm and comfortable and, you know, knowing roughly what's going on and feeling safe. And when we're thrown out of that homeostatic state, we feel ill at ease. And particularly when it's thrown out in a social setting and where we perceive we're being judged, particularly by a woman that we perceive to have like a higher authority, that really I've just been thrown out of my resting state, and so my body starts activating, my breathing gets fast, my heart rate increases, fucking chemicals are buzzing in my body, my thoughts are racing around, and so that's the position a guy's come in when he's lost his cool. And so giving him a simple practical meditation technique will help him to get out of the front of this brain which is thinking all this nonsense and to go, all right, back into what is actually happening as opposed to what am I thinking is happening. Okay, cool, what is actually happening is I'm a body that's activated, and okay, if I slow my breathing, if I bring my awareness to the way I'm holding tension, if I bring my awareness to the way my body's having sensations, and I allow it to be, then very quickly that reaction starts to unravel and then you chill. So that's on the one surface level, that's what happens that's why I look at emergency techniques for meditation. Like I teach techniques which are deep inner change, and then other ones that are like micro meditations that you can do throughout the day just to keep pulling the edge off the stress, keep pulling you back into the present. And then how does that relate to the deeper fears or deeper core issues of worthiness? I think it definitely does, because really, essentially what we are is a collection of stories that we keep telling ourselves. Like that's our identity and our ego. Over our lifetime, we've started to tell ourselves certain stories that say, I am like this, I'm good at this, I'm bad at this, people like me when I do this, I'm this kind of person, I've had these experiences, these traumas, and we create a narrative of like what is our life story, which is really like not the objective truth. It's like it's based on our own memories and our own perceptions of our experiences. Take 10 people, give them the same life experience, they'll remember it in different ways, they'll have different narratives. Some will perceive it as being growth, some will perceive it as being downtrodden. You know, the different ways we interpret life determines how we express and what our character is. So what you can do is moment by moment we're recreating that story and we're building upon it. And if it's a if it's a negative one, or it's one that where we've got negative narratives or negative self-talk, or projecting that out and having anger and frustration and resentment to women or society or whatever, every time we get a little piece of evidence, we then we interpret that to fit the same story. So the girl says, I'm busy, and then the guy automatically interprets that as, she hates me, women don't like me, women are nasty, I'm a loser. And then I pile that up on that old story and I continue with that narrative. Whereas you and I mean, when a girl says, fuck off, I'm busy, we go, oh yeah, she's busy, or she's Russian, or she didn't like the look of me, or she just didn't have time. Of course, she can't judge me as a human being. She doesn't know me. Like, I don't know me. I've been spending decades trying to know me and I still don't. How can she? And so, it just rolls off us. The worst rejection that you and I might experience, we might feel a bit weird for a few minutes, like if it's really brutal.
For example, like, no, because you are too old and many other reasons.
Yeah. One of the worst rejections I had in front of a bunch of students when we were teaching Eurotour, and she's like, you're too old and too many reasons to list, was basically the gist of it. And then, and then I felt a bit strange and I was like, oh yeah, too old am I? I'll show you. And then went off and picked up a 19-year-old and turned out it wasn't too old for her. But like that, we don't, like, I can look back on that experience, which made me feel weird, as like just totally funny, and like it fits into the narrative of me being a guy who goes and gets what he wants, and knowing that I can't control everything in the world, and that some girls will like me, some girls won't. Who gives a shit? So moment by moment, we are recreating our reactive behaviors, and particularly when we're put into a highly pressurized situation is when your reactions come up. And that's what I love about the seduction spirituality interface, is that when you go into a retreat and you sit for 10 hours a day or do meditation daily, over time, old issues come up, because when you stop pressing down or repressing things and holding stress on them and you relax them, then stuff comes out. Sometimes in ways that are quite like extreme, through big catharsis, or just gradually things come out. And then you sit there and you process them, in the sense that you observe them, and instead of getting involved and making it really personal and following this narrative, you step back and go, okay, that's just a story that I've been telling myself, or that's just a collection of thoughts and influences and socializations and memes and all this stuff. Okay, I see that more objectively now. And then it starts having less power. But when you put yourself in higher pressurized situations, those things come up fast. And that's why seduction's awesome, because all your fears, your ego, your identity, that stuff gets suddenly burst into the forefront of your experience over and over again as you go and approach. And you can either lock down and try and just like bang your head against it, or you can do what what you've been teaching, where you step into discomfort zone over and over again, in a way that you're like really learning to let go of your identity and your ego, like let go of your comfort zone, let go of your safety nets, and then you have these pops where you experience, oh yeah, here's me being technically humiliated or technically embarrassed, but now seeing the fun, the play, the nonsense of it, the absurdity of it all. Oh, okay, cool, doesn't bother me so much. And that's what I found then when we mixed that, your kind of stuff with then me looking at how to process that process. So when all that stuff comes up, that I'm embarrassed, I'm feeling weird, I'm judged, all that stuff, you see that that's a collection of thoughts, feelings, tensions in the body, and it's the best time to change, like any core pattern that you want to change in yourself, is when it manifests. Like it's hard, like when you do it when you're sitting on a cushion and you're all chilled out, yeah, you'll get gradual change. But when it's like right there, it's activated, that's the time when, instead of doing what you used to do, which is react, get angry, get fearful, run away, or whatever your reactive habit was, you sit in it and you let it wash over you and move through you and reach its intensity, and then see that, oh, okay, at its most intense point, it shifts and changes into something else. Okay, now I'm through that hump. Okay, now all those thoughts about my worthiness, if I just bring myself into my belly, now, okay, I'm more at ease with this situation. I'm realizing it's not a big deal. It's not the big complicated story I thought it was. It's just, oh yeah, two strangers meeting is a bit awkward. And there's going to be the awkwardness, so we need to sit through it. And yeah, she doesn't know me yet, and the best thing I can do is reveal myself and be okay with who I am right now. And that's not as easy as just saying that. That's a process. But going through, making that the forefront of what you're trying to do is to go, okay, here I am, and I'm going to be okay with what happens. And how am I going to be okay is by just stepping back from getting so locked up in my own personal story, making it so being so narcissistic, essentially, negatively narcissistic, which is what most people are, is that it's all about me and it's bad, right? Whereas instead it can be just like, well, let's make it all about this experience, this moment, these sensations, these observations, this interface that I'm having with this stranger, this look in their eyes. Okay, now it's not such small and personal, it's expansive and universal. And now, cool, I'm starting to have shifts and change in my actual behavior, in my actual thought processes, in my emotional responses. And you do that enough times, then yeah, it has really core level change. Answer your question?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, rantathon.
No, it's good. Usually I'm the one ranting away, and people are like, Jesus Christ, do you ever stop? And I'm like, no, I'm a ranter. I have things to say.
Yeah.
I got things on my mind that need to be said, you know?
That's pretty much what our job is. Mainly, most of our job is being good at ranting.
Yeah. Ranting in an inspirational way while helping and giving love, but being kind of harsh at the same time.
Yeah, it's a good, fun mix. I enjoy it.
And then you go out and there's girls.
Yeah.
So here's another interesting point. For me, meditation has always been one of the hardest things in the world. And I was stupid enough to be like, I don't even meditate, but I'm just going to go do Vipassana for 10 days, 10 hours a day. It'll be fine. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. It was a stupid thing to do. I wouldn't recommend that. But as I've been getting, again, more in tune with me, more in tune with my purpose, just feeling happier, letting go of old shit, I had this revelation just recently, actually. And tell me what you think about this. And the revelation basically was people are scared to meditate because they're going to meet themselves. And when you get away, like everyone is always distracting themselves with every moment. People are on their phone, they're on the computer, they're watching something on TV, they're looking at the news. People cannot just be still because you have to face yourself. What is there when what is there when you take away everything and you just sit with yourself? That's the thing. And I think for a variety of reasons, people are just terrified of meeting themselves. And I think, and what I realized was, now I'm getting to a point where I can sit and tap into that basically that joy that's there. Because really, when you take all the shit away and you get rid of all the damage and all the fear and all the doubt and all the thoughts, actually there's just joy and happiness and peace. That's all that's really there. But because we're so terrified of what's gonna happen if we actually go into that space, so it's almost like it forces you, like meditation forces you to deal with all the stuff up here and all the junk and emotional garbage. It's like you have to get through that to be able to sit, because if you don't, it's going to drive you fucking apeshit. So in a way, it's like the ultimate way. It's almost like the ultimate shit test, but rather than like a girl being an asshole, like your own shit. It's like a test of your own shit.
Mm. Yeah, and it's like, that's where starting to be self-introspective often then leads you to recognize that there's things that in your external life that you have to shift. So I mean, it's like, it is hard to have, if your values are not aligned, like if on one hand you're trying to have spiritual growth and understanding and love, and on the other hand you're working in a highly stressful, negative situation with people that you dislike, and you have to act in, you have to be a total dick in your job, or you have to totally kowtow and bow down to somebody else, or if you've always been a nice guy who's been supplicating to everyone around them, in this way where you're not living your own truth, you're not really living your passion, you're living for somebody else. When you start going deeper in, being more introspective, you can't ignore that anymore. Whereas if you're just up in your rational mind, you can totally rationalize anything. People can rationalize any shitty situation they find themselves. Oh, this is the way it is. Life's tough. I'll just do this for another 10 years, and then I'll do something else. This is as good as it's going to get. All of these kinds of stories that we just go rationalize. I'll deal with that later. Yeah, when you start meditating, you go, well, actually, no, I can't. There is no later. Like, this is my life passing at light speed in front of me. And if I'm not living in some form of, at least like on the basic levels of like doing things that I actually want to do, and being good to people in the way I want to be, and being able to assert myself and go for what I want, then I'm not living my truth. And so, yeah, that's why people distract themselves so much, particularly in the modern world. I mean, you and I grew up before mobile phones, before the internet, but I sometimes think, what the hell did people do back then? I'm like, I have these memories of me reading books and just like sort of staring at some bees or something in the field. back when, if you wanted to call a girl, it involved doing this and then waiting for the parents to get on the other line. You certainly didn't do that more than you had to. But yeah, I mean, we have, in the modern world, we have access to everything, which is good, cool and useful, and also highly fucking distracting, because people can't just sit with themselves. And that's why a big part of this course that I've put together, the martial meditation method, is looking at that problem. Because I went off into monasteries and fucking mountainsides and invested huge amounts of time. I spend probably 90 days a year at least working on myself. Like whether that's going to retreats or chilling out or writing or meditating or swinging a sword around, like that's a lot of time, and a lot of people don't have that time or haven't found that time yet. But so I put together this course which really looks at how do you integrate this into an action-packed daily life that includes you working, studying, trying to get laid, make money, have fun, whatever. And so I really broke this down into this concept of micro meditations. And this is something I think you'll find useful as well, because you're such a busy mind. And your mind's a bit like a bulldozer, like it plows towards what it wants to go towards. It has a hard time, settling. Seeing that, like, yes, it is great to set aside time for meditation, and I do that, and I also teach that in this course. But at the same time, you can do that dozens, if not hundreds of times throughout the day. And simply by, it's like every time you call your awareness back to the present moment is a moment of meditation. Right, so like simple things I give guys is simply like feel your feet on the ground, take a breath in and feel the top of your head, and breathe out and feel the soles of your feet again. It's a one breath meditation. It takes 5 seconds, and you do that many times throughout the day. Every time you do that, you're calling your attention to feel the soles of your feet. That's not because they're magic or the feet mean something. It's because it's easy to feel. You can feel the weight of your body. You go, oh yeah, I can feel that. I breathe in, I can feel the top of my head. I breathe out, I can feel the soles of my feet. I've just given myself a moment of presence. I've just given myself a moment where even just for those 5-10 seconds, I wasn't up in here running the same old stories. I was actually in my body. Or other simple stuff like kitchen zen, which is one thing where I tell guys, choose 1 or 2 or 3 activities you do every day which are routine. So going into the bathroom, going into the kitchen, commuting to work, something which you do on autopilot. You don't need to think about it. And make it that, okay, every time I go in the kitchen, that's my conscious time. So that means as I walk, I feel my feet. As I open the fridge, I feel my hands. As I'm preparing food, I'm focusing in on that. I'm not listening to podcasts or swiping or whatever. I'm just there. As I'm sipping my tea, I'm really feeling the heat and smelling the smells. So I'm using all my senses to become conscious for that 5 minutes that I'm in the kitchen, which otherwise it would have just been another 5 minutes of distraction, becomes a meditative space. Right? So in this way, you can start to pull back pieces of time from distraction, from stress, and without needing to change your day at all. You can still do exactly the same things, but be having these little micro check-ins throughout the day, which overall lowers your levels of stress, gets you in more flow. Because a lot of guys I work with, you and I have worked with, consider themselves to be intellectual, over analytical thinkers. These are a lot of technically skilled guys we work with. And that's all well and good for solving problems, but the truth is, most true problems are not solved by sitting down and thinking them. They're solved when you're in flow. It's when you're riding your bicycle or when you're sitting in the bath or something where suddenly, the song comes to you, or the problem's solved, or I know what I've got to say to my dad, or whatever. That stuff comes really from you channeling rather than like trying to work out inside your brain. So that's a big way that I try to help guys to straddle the modern stressful life, and also being able to bring spirituality in a very, very practical way.
Yeah, and I think that's great, because it seems kind of, I guess, overwhelming for a lot of guys, because they started following us because they like the girls. And then we're like, well, there's a lot of answers over here, and developing your love with the universe and all this other stuff. And some guys would go, whoa, what is this? I just wanted to get some poon over here. But when you phrase it in such a simple manner of like, hey, just by getting into your body, even just taking a breath or just being present and doing things, how it puts you in the moment, it stops you worrying from things. And when you can actually just be in the body and you can just feel good and just realize, oh, I'm alive, I'm having this experience. So here I am doing things, this ape-like weird fucking creature. Exactly. What is this? What are these things? What are these things?
What is this?
I can just control this weird thing. They're little hooks. What's this thing? What is this guy doing over here? Somebody could get hurt.
You got one too.
No. Well, look at that huge thing on your face. Look at that thing. What is that guy doing there?
Ridiculous.
But when you just get in the body, suddenly you just start having a human experience rather than a cerebral experience, and it's so useful, and it just makes life more enjoyable in every aspect. Even washing dishes, like literally, I'm enjoying washing dishes, your dishes actually, because I've just been getting into that state where it's just like, oh wow, cool, this is great. I'm just gonna do this, and I just put myself in it, and it's so easy when you're just remind yourself like, oh, here I am, I'm a human. And I'm present. Here I am now. Let's take a deep breath. It changes almost all of your activities. It's insane. It's like, and everyone's felt that in their life when they're just on autopilot. Like, you ever had that? Like, you're literally just doing, and suddenly you just go, what happened to the last 4 or 5? Because you're not even present at all. You're just doing shit for the sake of doing shit, and so it literally just takes your life from autopilot to enjoying every single moment just by being present. It's such an important thing. This is why. Yeah, you got me ranting about it too, but it's great. It's a life changer.
Yeah, like I've done a lot of interesting, fun, crazy shit in my life, and so have you. We've been fucking adventurers of we're modern Renaissance men, and everything from living in the jungles to doing BDSM to having threesomes to studying all sorts of whack and weirdness. And I know, like, in terms of, I've done a lot of awesome shit, but the thing that's made the biggest difference in my life has absolutely been this kind of insight awareness meditation, in terms of the real deep changes that it's brought to me, and the joy, the actual enjoyment. Because that's, you've been bringing this up as well, that both of us are people who are ambitious. We're often thinking ahead. We're always trying to build empires. We're not satisfied with boring, simple lives. And which is great, and we work with a lot of guys who are like that, ambitious people who are thinking outside the box. But the curse of those kinds of people is that so often they're not satisfied. They don't actually enjoy any of it. Like, we've worked with multi-millionaires who are fucking miserable and are always clambering for the next thing, the next million, the next yacht, the next chick, the next validation experience. And a lot of the fucking problems in the world is caused by men who cannot fucking be satisfied, who just have to clamber to the next fucking country or the next something, take the next whatever. And like, actual happiness doesn't come from consuming. It doesn't come from getting. Yes, it's good to have goals, and it's good to have things that you want to acquire in your life, but it's the actual everyday, moment by moment appreciation of the process. And sure, of course, enjoy the fruits of your labor. Enjoy the time when you get the girl in your bed, or make you $1 million or whatever. But that's not going to make you satisfied. The thing that truly makes you happy is actually being able to have simple things like a good meal, a good conversation, a moment of intimacy, many moments of smelling the air and listening to the birds and having good music, and simple but powerful experiences in your life over and over again, in a way where you really get to enjoy them and be there with them. Because it's so tragic, really, that so many years of people's lives are not even experienced. They simply have chewed up so many hours in their day worrying about shit that never happens, dreaming about nostalgically about things that weren't even as good as you thought they were, stressing about like tiny little things that on your deathbed don't make any fucking difference, worrying about what people are thinking about you, and then holding you back from moving towards your actual dreams. Like, people will chew up often the bulk of their fucking life in that, or just totally zoned out in zombie world doing their job and not there. It's like, I know that the quality of my life has been exponentially better than it would have been if I had not have found these tools. And so that's why when I teach live programs, it's a big part of the curriculum. We spend probably nearly 2 hours a day working on this kind of stuff, and it's the bedrock of my seduction success. Like, the reason I'm good, I know. Like, my verbal game's decent. All the things seduction-wise I do are good. Some of them really good, some of them not so good. But the reason that I'm actually good and effective is because of my presence. And guys sometimes say that. They're like, your fucking infield's boring. You just went up and said, how you going? And asked her a few questions and flicked your hair, and then she wanted to give you the number. And it's confusing to the untrained eye. They're like, oh, it must be because he's tall, or he's got long hair, or he's got a leather jacket, which does help, actually. But no, the reason is because women can see. Like, women have got the same shit. They're in their heads all day. Their worries, their fears. Am I beautiful? Am I getting old? How do I compare to everyone else? All this other stuff's buzzing in their heads. And they've met guys who can play the game, who've got showy skills, who are interesting entertainers or whatever. And that may be interesting to some girls at some points, but they rarely meet a man who just goes, lock, okay, we're here right now, just you and me, baby. we are in a space together and we're having a movie moment. What that is that we're having a real moment. And that's the thing that I'm good at, like really. It's like that I'm here with the girl and she feels like, even if we're in bustling New York City, that suddenly nothing else exists and we're in real time experiencing this moment together. And of course, everyone wants to experience that, even if they're not consciously aware of it. That's why people have peak experiences. That's why they jump out of planes and take drugs and have meaningless sex and, you know, all sorts of things to try and bring themselves back to the moment, which is good. I endorse meaningless sex and jumping out of planes with parachutes. But the thing that they're really looking for is that, oh, yes, I'm alive. I'm here right now. And if you're present, you can bring people into presence. Some people are so scattered you can't, but if they're willing to be opened, you can bring them into that moment. And then, of course, she wants to spend more moments like that. And then she's thinking, well, imagine what it's going to be like in bed if we're having that kind of presence. So that's my seduction superpower, really. And it all came from back when I was this grumpy kind of an 18-year-old just trying to deal with the fact that I hated myself. So, yeah, there you go.
Well, two things. First, I can testify to the power of your presence because you used your magic. I always joke around that the first time I met you, you did your trick on me and made me crack under the pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so important, and I've seen it millions and millions of times. But the other thing is, like, even recently here, I'm in Budapest, and again, I've been doing a lot of spiritual practices. I've just been doing a lot of work on myself because I'm in your nice place here, and there's lots of space, and I'm actually on my own for the first time in a while. Just have space, and yeah, I've just been walking around the streets sometimes, just, you know, not trying to meet anyone or not, you know, just walking around being present and looking at people. And man, I'll tell you what. I've been noticing just how the lack of presence women have. It's just like, I'm just walking around, like, okay, if there's a cute girl, I'm going to look at her and just see, you know, if she looks over and she smiles and she's present and she's with me, maybe I'll say hi. They're all up in their heads. They're texting or they're worried. You can see the worry on their face. They're thinking, they're angry, they're walking around, and it's so rare. It's so rare to have a moment with someone where they're just smiling and they're present and they just look at me and go, hey, it's unbelievable, James. It's not just us guys. It's everybody. No one's present in the moment. It's madness. And so again, even when you just have that consciousness where you're like, okay, I'm going to go out there and I'm just going to be present and I'm just going to look at people and I'm just going to just be in my body and look out my eyes and just see what's out there. Man, you can have amazing experiences just doing that. It's craziness. It really is. And it's just from that basic little, okay, I'm here in the moment. I'm just going to see what happens. It's unbelievable, James. It's crazy.
Yep, walking around the block becomes a spiritual experience. It's awesome.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Well, listen, as we're talking about meditation, I know you have a fucking product coming out about this, and I'm actually shocked it's taken you, being Party Monk and being who you are, that's taken you this long. I'm sure fucking some people are going to jump on, they're going to love it. Tell us about this thing. I'm curious. What is this?
All right, so it's called the Martial Meditation Method, the Triple M, and this is the culmination of my last 15 years of personal meditation study. So since I was 18, I'm 37, so nearly whatever that is. Is that nearly 20 years? That's a long time. But yeah, I've been meditating and I've investigated all sorts of different systems. So I started with Vipassana, then I moved into Zen, then I tried tantric stuff, I've looked at mantra, shamanism, qigong, stretching, kung fu, all sorts of different schools of thought and methodology, and tested out lots of them and gotten a lot out of all those different pathways, but I've also gone down a lot of dead ends, learned from teachers that were shitty or systems that were not particularly effective. And over time, I've boiled it down to routines that I do in my life. And I'm not someone who's good at routine. I'm awful at routine, you know this. Like trying to get me up in the morning or trying to get me to like follow some kind of schedule, it just never works. And that's a good thing about being your own boss, is you don't have to necessarily get up in the morning. But I've never been someone who's been very good at diligently doing things, except for when I was in the temples and monks forced me to. So my meditation practice has had to be something that I could learn to integrate into a day that is kind of chaotic. And so I've boiled down all the pieces that if I've only got 20 minutes or I've only got minutes here and there throughout the day, that I can use that to embody. I can use that to practice abdominal breathing. I can use it to become aware. And so I took all of these techniques, boiled them down to 5 or 6 that I felt were the most important. And then during my live courses, which I've been teaching now for 8-9 years, they've become a staple part of it. So we've discussed already some of the hints at what those are, but giving my students ways to stretch, loosen their bodies, get into their bodies so that they actually are active and not stiff and rigid. Ways to observe their internal reactive states that we were talking about in terms of approach anxiety or worthiness issues, and also really powerful breathing techniques to be able to lock their awareness down in their belly to have a whole lot of power and focus, as well as some cool moving meditation, qigong stuff. So that's what I've been teaching my courses. Now, I only teach 60, 70 guys a year, and that's quite a lot, but that's about all I can do. And guys have been asking me all around the world for ages, how is it you're so calm? How is it you're chilled out in these interactions? How do you... I'm introverted and low energy, but I find it difficult to express myself. My answer is it's always meditation. That's the thing that's gotten me that. And guys are always asking me, okay, how do I meditate? What type of meditation? I don't necessarily want to go off to fucking India or to Shaolin Temple to study. I want something that I can learn and use in my day-to-day life. So what I've done, and I've been filming this thing for 2 years. I started filming it in Peru. I filmed it in Peru, Australia, Costa Rica, Thailand, Hungary, and now in New York. So it's like I've gone around the world for the last 2 years filming and preparing this course. And now it's ready to release. It's coming out December 2nd, so that's very fucking soon. It's a 6-week course. It's not just a dump of videos. It's a week-by-week course where basically I will be there as the mentor for the guys in there, so working with them during a Facebook group and webinars, and then providing them with week-by-week video tutorials on how to learn very simple but powerful meditation techniques, and then very importantly, how to integrate them in their day-to-day life through using MP3 audios, micro meditations, as I've discussed earlier, and then the core meditation practices of morning and evening routines. For me, it's like afternoon and 3 a.m. routines when my time schedule is. Plus a whole lot of extra videos and ideas that connect this to the man who's trying to be a social explorer, right? So this is a meditation system that anyone could use. Your mum would love it, but I've specifically geared it towards guys who are trying to get good with seduction. So I've given a bunch of interviews with guys like Travel Bum and Shay Matthews, some interesting spiritual guys who put their takes on meditation and spirituality in terms of sexuality, as well as a whole bunch of extra rants, mindsets, ways to utilize these internal techniques when you're out there being externally socially active. So it's a really fucking cool course. It's going to be 6 weeks starting on December 2nd with me there every day helping the guys to move through these internal processes. And yeah, I'm really excited to be putting it out there. So that's what it is, coming soon. And I'm offering right now a free giveaway. So one of the most powerful techniques that I learned, which was the monks in Shaolin Temple taught me this, special type of abdominal breathing, which is the thing that I've most used to control my state and also to control my sexual state. So this technique allows you to, when you get a handle on it, to slow your arousal state down, to ride an even level of your sexual arousal so that you can last forever, right? So it's sex god method for fucking lasting ages in bed, as well as making you really powerful and focused. So there's a free video tutorial. You just need to click the link on the page here or in the description, whatever Sasha sorted out for you, and put your email in and I'll send you that video straight away. And then, yes, if you're interested in the entire MMM course, it's coming out December 2nd. So yeah, there's my pitch. Bow.
Dude, that sounds fucking epic.
Yeah.
That's really fucking epic. I wish that was around when we were starting out, or actually, well, it was when you were because you had it in your head. But when I was starting out, I didn't have that shit.
Yeah, well, I had to travel to the ends of the earth to find it.
This should have been like your first product, dude. This is like the main thing for you. To be honest, this is like me teaching how to be playful. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Which I still haven't released, but I will one day. No, it sounds totally fucking epic. That's great. Yeah, anybody out there who is not in the moment and needs to calm the fuck down and be in their body and wants to meet more girls, which is probably a lot of people listening to this, go and fucking get it. You know what? I'm even gonna, because I know people are gonna love it. So I'm even gonna throw in. Remember that interview we did for my academy, where it was an epic fucking hour and a half fucking thing. It was like one of the best chats ever. It went on forever. Yes. So anybody who grabs this from the link below, I will give them a copy of that for free. It's only available to basically the Direct Dating Academy, Infinite Man Academy members. But I'm gonna throw that in there just because I love these guys for taking action and getting their shit together.
An extra 90 minutes of rant from the two rant kings.
That's right. It was us ranting about man stuff, and it was beautiful.
It was beautiful. Yeah, it's good. I love having rants with you, Sasha. I miss ranting to you.
I know, right? It's so weird. I'm here now in your house, and you're not fucking here, dude. What the fuck?
I know. And I'm coming to Serbia next week, but I can't come to Budapest because I'm in exile.
That's right. You have to have X amount of time out the country.
Yep.
Otherwise, you get in trouble. That's the one downfall of the lifestyle of just moving all around the place. You're limited to how much you can be in one place. That's right.
But don't that's
stop.
good. We're enjoying it. I'm enjoying my life. It's cool. I wouldn't have it any other way. And if I would, I just will do it that way because that's what I can do. It rocks.
I find it's the mix. It's like you have to have some sort of base where you can go and just fucking relax and calm down and sort of get your shit together before you go around on adventures. It's very, very I don't know what the word is. It's difficult to have focus if you're always running around. So this is why the last couple of months being in your house has been epic because I've just been chilling and working on myself. It's been great.
Good. I'm glad you're keeping the place warm.
And
you haven't touched my swords, are you? They're still there, aren't they?
No, well you locked it up. You know, my buddy Dave, who actually has training in that, he was there like, you think it would be okay if if I just took a look at the swords? I'm like, he locked the swords up on purpose, mate. I don't think he wants you going in there. He's like, all right.
Oh, he wanted to pick the lock, didn't he? You wanted to touch him.
He did.
Yeah.
He did, but I had to talk him out of it.
I can understand. Oh, I miss them. Yeah. I haven't been swinging swords.
Yeah, you love it.
But yeah.
So,
all right. Well, we have to wrap it up because they're about to kick me out of this space in New York City because space is a premium in this city.
It is in New York City.
That was that was fun chat.
Yeah, it was good to see you. You look healthy. You look happy. You're always sporting the leather. That's the one thing consistent about you. He's always got a funky leather jacket on.
Yep.
And beautiful, mate. Well, I look forward to having you on more and having more interesting chats about interesting things in the future.
Yes, absolutely.
And I look forward to seeing you in the flesh sooner rather than later.
All right. I love you, man. And for all yous out there, buy my shit. It's going to be awesome. It's going to change your life more than any of that other shit you're buying today. Trust me. Don't trust anyone who says trust me.
Well, depends who's saying it. Yeah. All right. Love you, man. And I'll see you the next time.
All right. Bye.